Buddies, we are live with an amazing panel here today. We have some of the smartest and brightest, so I say before we all kill each other with disagreements. Just kidding, folks. I'm really excited to be live here with this group today. Everyone, say hello.
Hello.
Hey, what is going on? I hope everybody is doing awesome out there today that is hanging out, watching the stream. Hope everybody is excited to hear some awesome YouTube information being shared here on the stream.
Nick, you are coming in super glitchy.
So I'm trying to hide Nick's identity with pixelation.
Nimmin down.
We had to put him in
Nimmin
witness
down.
protection.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So that's a new hashtag. Hashtag Nimmin down.
However, Nick is now clear. We should be fine now. Everyone, if you have a question for this panel, we are going to be taking questions from the chat today. It's going to be using hashtag question. Our moderators will be sending them to me through Discord. So as we go along here, it's going to be a fun stream. The first question I am fielding from our community forums, and I think this is a really good question for this panel. So this topic of this stream is what you really need to get started. So this person says, I have TubeBuddy, but what else would you recommend before I ever hit record? So whoever wants to start with that.
A plan.
Ooh.
A plan.
All right.
Having a plan, knowing what it is that you want, knowing what it is that you want to get out of YouTube, knowing what it is that you want to, do with your time, so to speak, is also important. But just having a plan of some kind, even if it's not like a completely detailed, like I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. Just having just a really loose idea of, these are the things that I'm going to try to do with my YouTube channel. These are the type of people that I'm going to try to reach with my content. This is the type of stuff that the type of information that I'm going to share with other people to bring them into what it is that I'm doing. This is the specific value I'm going to add to people. Just kind of have like a general idea of what it is that you are doing. Because if you go in and you just upload videos for the sake of uploading videos, then in a lot of cases, most cases, I would venture to say that you're going to have a rough road ahead of you. If you're just going in blind, you don't really know, you're just kind of throwing stuff out there and hoping something sticks to the wall. So having some type of plan so that you can have just kind of like a set path for yourself is the first thing that I would do.
All right. Anyone else have anything?
That's solid. No, that nailed it.
Pretty fair.
Anybody else?
I would.
Apparently, you need a fast internet connection so you're not the matrix glitch while you're trying to live stream.
Well, I don't know if that's happening because the camera, like the USB port is plugged into or what. But yeah, Roberto and I are like having trouble here with the camera nonsense.
It's interesting because everyone else is coming in pretty clear, so I'm not sure on that. But, live and learn. This is our first panel discussion. Yeah. As you guys said, we're just the TubeBuddy bunch. So our next question...
The TubeBuddy bunch. The TubeBuddy bunch.
The one family you didn't know you needed until you needed to grow. Anyway, our next question, speaking of growth, how many of you actually are still going back to the basics in the beginning of this new decade, the beginning of this new year? So what I mean by that is, are you going back to kind of reminding yourself like what I'm doing this for, or are you just going forward with kind of what you've already planned out?
I'm back to basics hardcore. I'm back to straight up fundamentals when it comes to it. And what I'm prioritizing is going back to the roots of consistency and really trying to make sure that my delivery, my confidence, my charisma is 100% on point. And I think people, if you've seen the latest videos that I've put out in 2020, I've been like prioritizing that probably above anything else. And then I'm trying to get back to a place of creating content for people like me instead of creating content for me. And what I mean by that, Andrew, is that I've struggled with this personally, is I just make content that I want to make. And I just take the views that come from that, the end. And I've been doing that for a while because I've not been trying to actively grow a channel. But I got very comfortable in, I would say, and I think this happens to a lot of content creators when they reach a certain point in their career. I got very comfortable with just being Roberto Blake, which is great because I fought my entire life to be comfortable being Roberto Blake. But now I've earned that. But yes. You get comfortable and then you make content and you find yourself just making kind of stuff for you and for the 5 people you love in the comment section. And while there's nothing wrong with that, that's not the same thing as making content with a plan, like Nick was saying, and what I think more importantly, with a purpose. And so I'm now making content specifically to serve a group of people that are like me.
I think
Nice.
that's
That
important.
makes sense.
So you're going back to basics. What about you, Daniel D and Nick?
I am. Go ahead, Daniel.
Well, you could be Daniel D or Nick, either one of them, D. For me, it's been really going back to basics in the sense that I think the simplicity of what I try to do is just zero in on the target audience I'm trying to reach and really work with the content I create. I think you guys know that each one of us exist in a similar field about, you know, YouTube growth and trying to get channels to move forward on the platform, but we all do it in different ways. Nick is really focused on the YouTube end of it, helping people with YouTube. D is focused more on the mobile application end of it. Roberto kind of has right across the field. He's the taskmaster that really talks about monetization, revenue streams, and not just YouTube. It's more about taking your content, making great things, and being able to monetize revenue and create a career out of it. My end of it is really about content. You know, mine is about how to make better content to grow on the platform. So that I live in that space of how can I package better? How can I find a target for my videos and then find a great title and make a great thumbnail so that the messaging of what I'm building is really on point and digestible. And it's really a matter of deconstructing things and just thinking audience first. Like, how can I really have them glance at this and totally get it and want to click it, and then have the content be super strong and true to the title and the thumbnail in a way that video has a lot of possibility of connecting with a very specific audience that I'm trying to reach. So simple things, but I keep honing that and crafting it and trying to get better at it.
And I think that's super
solid.
important. So I do want to answer some quick questions we got from the chat. Someone asked, will YouTube ever unsubscribe you to a YouTube channel? They're not talking about closed account or inactive. From my current understanding, no, they won't unsubscribe you randomly to a YouTube channel. But if you guys have any other opinions or thoughts on that, what do you guys think?
Yeah, so I've seen reports and stuff like that to where, you know, they do things like that. But I mean, at the end of the day, you know, like, you know, the channels that you watch the most, and YouTube knows the channels that you watch the most. And even if you're not subscribed to a YouTube channel, if you're watching content from that creator anyway, you don't even have to be subscribed. They're still going to show you content from that channel. So at the end of the day, like, it's not even something that I would waste my brain power working on, because even if, let's say that YouTube had something in their system to where it's like, hey, let's just be jerks and go around and just unsubscribe these people from all of their favorite content creators, even if they had something like that in their system, then there's no like benefit whatsoever on YouTube side of doing that. So it's just and it's out of your control. So because of that also, like, there's no reason to even waste a moment even considering, like, you know, just even caring. I should just do it that way. There's no reason to waste a moment even caring about that.
So there's
YouTube is not going to maliciously unsubscribe you from a channel. Like, let's unsubscribe these people for unknown reasons. That said, you're talking about a bunch of ones and zeros doing their thing. So stuff breaks. It's a computer. How many times has your computer lost a file or something? It happens.
We can even get our cameras to work, for Pete's sake.
Right.
I finally got my camera on. Yeah.
Same here, buddy. Like, I had that same issue. Me, I'm more aggressive about this. I literally want to not literally choke slam every YouTube conspiracy theorist with this, like, unsubscribing or subscribing to inflate channels on all this YouTube conspiracy nonsense, all this industry plant nonsense. It is absolutely ridiculous. For one thing, if you think YouTube is competent enough to manufacture an industry plant, I have one piece of evidence for you. Look at the last 2 YouTube rewinds and tell me they really actually know what people want, and tell me that they're competent enough to engineer an industry plant. Sorry, YouTube.
Wow.
I mean,
when
you went there.
Look, when it's the truth, it's okay to tell it. It's the truth. It's all right to say
it's the truth. All right.
Yeah, can I just follow up on that for a second? You know,
of course.
The very first question, which was talking about, you know, getting back to basics, that really, Nick nailed it. Is, you know, it's easy to get wrapped up in these things like, oh, is YouTube unsubscribing people for me? Is that why my channel's not growing? Am I not getting pushed out the way I should be because I'm a small channel? Is that why I'm not growing? If you get fixated on things thinking there's something beyond your control that's holding you back from growth, it diverts so much positive energy that you should be spending just going, listen, it's you and the viewer. Every time you upload, YouTube puts your content in front of a group of viewers, no matter what that size is, small, big, large, depending on your particular reach at that time. But it immediately starts looking at how well those viewers react to your content. So all of your focus should be on that. You are being recommended. Are you connecting? Whether those people are subscribed or not, doesn't matter. YouTube's going to follow viewer behavior. So if those people start reacting to your content the minute you upload, that's the power that you have. Get them to react. And if they're not, think about what changes you can make to get those people to start reacting.
I think in that, Daniel, you said
And
something
with that
powerful.
too, if you don't mind me hopping on that as well, Daniel, it's like, you know, when you do get all caught up in that stuff, it takes energy. You know, it takes energy to sit there and hop online and be like, oh my gosh, is this really happening? Are they taking subscribers away? And it takes energy and it takes time. And that's all things that you can put into moving yourself forward and actually working on things that might move the needle for you instead of just wasting all of that energy, time, and brain power on something that's just completely irrelevant and out of your control.
Hey, can I take a second and just welcome Rob to the TubeBuddy team?
Rob,
welcome,
Oh, yeah.
Rob.
Rob,
Welcome,
absolutely.
man.
Welcome to the TubeBuddy team.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I haven't had a chance to formally say that yet, and just a welcome, man.
I just
Yeah,
wanted
welcome,
to welcome
Rob.
you as well, Rob. I've done this in private, but if you are unaware, Rob, who is a moderator in our chat, Rob Balasapis, is an amazing guy who is helping us with courses and things. So, Rob, thank you for all you do, and thank our other moderators for volunteering your time with us, no matter where you are. So, I do have a question.
And I'm glad.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm glad you said his last name because I wasn't able to pronounce it.
I was there too.
I like how we're all like, get our names right. Also, us. How do you say this?
Yeah, I agree 100% with Daniel, by the way. Like, focus on what you can control. And I believe that applies even to like sub goals and view goals. People get fixated and caught up and emotionally invested in their outcomes instead of in their process. And I understand it. I'm a creative person too, and it's nice to have your work acknowledged. I totally get that. That's fine. But what I would say that Daniel has absolutely right, especially what he was saying earlier, is focus on honing your craft. You can 100% control that. You can control your craftsmanship, your thumbnails, the way that you respond and reply to people. Like, if you want to grow, reply to everybody. That was my big secret to success, was when I started making, especially when I started making daily content, I was there every day for my viewers, and I was replying every day to every single viewer and letting them know they mattered to me. And that investment in them was rewarded with a commitment called the subscribe button. Okay. So focus on what you can control. And if you are getting impressions from YouTube in your analytics, then YouTube isn't screwing you over and isn't hurting you. It's basically, I'm making the joke lately that YouTube is basically Tinder. People click on your video or they don't. They swipe left or they swipe right. And everything you can do in your control to incentivize a swipe right is what you need to do. And to Daniel's point, that's
sexy.
you know, yeah, it's like,
yeah,
you just got to do that, right? So
I'd swipe right for you, Roberto.
I appreciate it.
this is gonna
That's
get
why
weird
right.
really fast in here.
I swipe
Well-
right on that beard alone, dude.
Let's be real. After what I've learned on all these live streams, if it doesn't get weird, is it really a TubeBuddy live stream? Like, let's be real.
Right, that's
Right.
true. Valid, very valid.
I wouldn't want anything to do with it otherwise.
So, you brought up something very interesting there, Roberto. You're talking about impressions and how people see it. What do you guys think about thumbnail design on YouTube going forward? Because a lot of people spent so much time doing the research, but I often hear I spend like 5 minutes on a thumbnail. What would you tell people
Look,
when it comes to the thumbnail?
I would say pour as much or more energy into the thumbnail as you do as the video and the topic itself, because that thumbnail has one goal. Stop them from scrolling and it's 2 goals. I can't count. Stop them from scrolling and get the click. And if it fails to do that, you're not getting the view. So if you are just flying through the thumbnail just to throw something up, I just need a quick thumbnail, you're kind of screwing everything up because you spent all this time researching your topic. You've researched your SEO. You've made a great video. You've edited the video. Maybe you even processed your audio, but then you kind of limp through your thumbnail, and your video's gonna suffer because of it. So I would say
You
your
blow it
thumbnail
at the
is
thumbnail.
yeah, you're blowing it at the thumbnail because you're
blow
not
it.
going to get that click. You're not going to get the click. Everything starts with the click.
Agreed. I often tell people that
It's the
great
first domino.
videos can be hidden behind terrible performing thumbnails. And one thing I had to learn especially is like you can put as much time and effort in a thumbnail, but if your audience isn't responding, they don't care that you put 3 hours, 4 hours into
Right.
that thumbnail. If they're not clicking and
Like
watching,
that hurts me personally. That hurts me in my soul, brother.
I know it does, but you know, it's like you can either get mad at the game or play the
And-
game.
Yeah.
And I want to add something to that. Having a sticky thumbnail doesn't mean it has to be the most well-designed thumbnail. It just has to stand out amongst the other thumbnails that you're competing with.
Yes.
I mean, Brian G. Johnson is doing fabulous with that. You know, it's like a red background with text. You know, it's really eye-catching. So you don't have to have the best design skills always to be recognized. It does help, but sometimes the simple things will catch your eyes.
I'm working on something that I'm working on something with my friend Donna from Psych IRL, who's like killing it right now. She was just nominated, I believe, for like a Shorty Award, and we're working on a thesis called The Psychology of Clickbait. We're working on a whole thing called The Psychology of YouTube. But like you know that I love human behavior. I mean, I'm a marketer. How could I not, right? Like that's our entire game. It's like if you're a marketer, like, and no shade to anybody, but like if you're a marketer, you might as well be considered as having a PhD in human behavior and psychology. If you are selling anything, if you're making money as a marketer, then you've won the game, right? And the thing that I think about with consumer behavior when it comes to YouTube thumbnails is I think of it just like product packaging, and I think about why is Apple like killing it when it comes to their design and the way that people behave? What's the user behavior behind that? What's the user behavior behind the decisions of even the mobile apps that are the top 10 mobile apps in the Apple like App Store? I study that intensely. Okay, I study the addiction of social media apps and screen time, and I read all the studies on this. I went to design school. I look at Gestalt, and I know that there are some very, very shallow triggers for human behavior, and I'm going to give you guys just a little quick taste of this. So familiarity is one thing. So when you make a YouTube thumbnail, and there's an element that is familiar to the average consumer, that's going to get more clicks. It's why commentary channels and news channels and people like Philip DeFranco use two familiar faces that even if you don't know who Philip DeFranco is, you know who one of these two people are, you know? Like there's a chance that and he does this really great formula. He usually uses a mainstream celebrity and an internet personality in his thumbnails, and almost nobody's caught on to that. And that means that you might know who Chrissy Teigen is, and you might know who PewDiePie is. You don't need to know who both are. Now you have a way to click on that video. And he also puts himself in the thumbnail. So if you're a hardcore fan of Philip DeFranco, you understand that this is a Philip DeFranco video without thinking about it. Okay. Product reviewers, YouTube tech channels, and beauty channels often make the thing an element in their thumbnail bigger. They make it the product, like the iPhone or whatever, or sometimes they'll put the logo in the thumbnail because they need to pass the filter of relevancy. If the topic isn't timely, you need to pass the relevancy filter, and what's relevant to the most people is going to be something or someone that is already a household name, which is why when you're a small YouTuber, the only psychological value to putting your face in a thumbnail when you're a small YouTuber is maybe you're trying to accustom an audience to start to build familiarity with you from the ground up, and if you can on your facial expression create an emotion that emotion that is triggering something in the viewer, then that emotion passes the relevancy filter.
All right, here's a question. Since that triggered emotion in me, how long have we, give me an idea, how long do we all spend doing different poses and faces for thumbs?
None.
Yeah, because you
just random pictures, but I only use like 10 of them.
I know.
Here,
can I jump on that for a second? Because it's funny you asked that question. How many in a situation where a face connects? It was really funny. Not to get too deep, but Matt Geelan from Little Monster put out a video recently where he talked about his thumbnail strategy, where he runs 3 or 4 different thumbnails. The first batch, meaning he knows that his video, the minute's release, is going to be served up to his most active subscriber base or viewer base. So he puts himself in it. But then he knows if it does well from that point, it's going to be pushed out to people who may not know who he is. So he switches to another thumbnail and removes himself from the thumbnail and starts focusing more on the topic at hand and tries to represent the messaging of the video itself, because he's always thinking about the viewer. In my case, I tested my face against doing more sort of an imagery thing. And every time in A/B testing, my face failed because I am not a good looking gentleman. And I'm cool with that. But it's about testing. It's about the best thumbnail is the one that your specific audience tends to click when you start making content targeted at them. And if that means putting your face in it does great things and it works and it connects, then great, move in that direction. If it doesn't right now, then try another thing. We're always building and growing. And you, as your channel grows and people start to get to know you and you become a personality attached to the thing that you talk about, and the audience becomes more invested in you, then your face holds more value. Just like Roberto was saying, is they may not know you when you're small. So always think audience first, viewer first. How do I get that thing? Think about your title. When you put out a video that's, I always, Ike is in the chat now. I know she is. And I know Ike's going to pick on me for making a chicken recipe reference. But when you're doing a chicken recipe video, your face and all kinds of pointing and trying to stuff the title back up in there isn't going to get it done. But maybe just a great picture of the chicken that you just cooked could get it done. Messaging, packaging, what makes sense to the viewer. Go that direction.
And one thing you said, Daniel,
and I just want to give you a little thumbnail cheat here. And when I put my face in the thumbnail, everybody comes in because they think I'm Nick. Great video, Nick. So if I need the views, I gotta take the hat off and take a picture,
So what I hear is I need to invest in bald caps and become Dan Nimmin full time. Got it.
Yes. Yes.
So you said something very...
one thing real quick on the side of thumbnails too, like with
you lost it, Andrew. It's over.
Know. Go ahead.
I've been putting my face in my thumbnails like from jump for the most part, not since the very beginning, but once I actually got comfortable being on camera and actually put myself out there, then I started putting myself in thumbnails. And another thing that, and I don't have anything for this or not, it's just kind of like a thought that I've always had, is that, if YouTube is showing my stuff to people, if they keep seeing my face on there, even if they've never seen me before, if they keep seeing my face, then I think that ultimately that they might click at some time if YouTube keeps showing them my face, even if they don't
become familiar with you.
Yeah, because they become familiar with it. It's like, I keep seeing this guy, so let me, see what it's all about type of thing. Again, there's no way that I could ever prove that, but it's just something that I've always had in the back of my mind in terms of, just letting people get familiar with me, even if they don't even click on my videos.
Yeah, but Nick, that's one thing right there.
The one video.
Nick's being really intentional. That's a really important part of anything you do. The decisions you make, don't let them be random. Nick has a justification and says, I'm intentionally doing this for a reason. And if his data, if his view count, if his channel growth supports the things he's doing, then he keeps doing it. So it's really about being intentional and letting your channel tell you if you're doing the right thing. Because if Nick had that same argument and he had, 5,000 subscribers right now as opposed to 500,000 subscribers, then he might think about maybe this isn't working. So think about intentionality and letting your channel tell you what's working.
I like that. And I think intentionality and an audience first viewpoint is really something that you should definitely be doing. We talk about what you really need to get started. I think those two alone, when you go into this, are super important. Now, something that's also important, and I really love this question. This question comes from Get Piano Lessons. And they said that I've learned from watching the TubeBuddy live streams that we should not include outbound links in our description, but does that mean we shouldn't promote to our affiliate links? So I kind of want to open the floor up to that.
I'm going to hand that to Roberto because I know. Yeah.
Okay. Here's the truth. Yes, session ends on YouTube are a thing, and you don't want to take traffic off of the platform. However, let's be very real about this. Most people don't read the bloody description, and most of those people don't click on the links, and most people don't buy anything, which is why all sales and marketing people, if you get a 1% or 2% click-through rate on anything, you are a bloody hero. You are Hercules. You are a champion. You are a gladiator in a suit. Okay? So if that's the case, then putting links in the description is irrelevant in terms of hurting your channel because of the simple ratios we're talking about. It is more likely that even if you tell people that there's a link in the description down below to even another video they would want to watch, that they're not going to click that, which is why we utilize the info cards in YouTube, and which is why we all try to kind of hack Suggested's algorithm, but more importantly, we should really be focused on next up and not suggested. So that is really the thing that we need to be focused on, is thinking about, this is a monetization opportunity. Are you really that much more concerned with keeping maybe 100 people from clicking links and keeping those people going to a YouTube video, knowing that 100 views is not even probably worth 10 cents to you? Or would you rather get those 100 people to click on that free trial of Audible, which would literally get you $500 for those 100 people, or on that other affiliate link that might have a $30 commission, which would get you, if you got 100 people to click on a $30 product or commission, you'd make $3,000. It's much more likely that 100 people on transactions makes you thousands of dollars than it is to make that first $1,000 in YouTube views, my friend. So the YouTube views are worth pennies on the individual viewer if you're lucky, if you have a really good CPM rate.
Yeah.
So
in a nutshell, it's a
affiliate
minor
transactions are
sacrifice.
worth so much
Yeah.
more. Yeah.
I also think it goes back to that intentionality, right? Like, is the purpose of that video to get you that click on that affiliate link, or is it to grow your channel? And I think that is really where that conversation needs to go. Again, I bring up all these things we said earlier because they go back to those fundamentals. And I think what you really need are good fundamentals in anything you're going to do in life. You can't run before you walk.
It comes back to how Nick started this by saying that you need a plan, and you might have one video with the purpose of collecting email addresses. You might have another video that you know is going to grow your channel. You might have another video where you're trying to drive traffic to a certain affiliate product. So you need to have a plan in terms of what each individual video is supposed to do.
I agree with that 100%. Like D, and like to Nick's point, I was talking to Nick on the phone yesterday, and I was talking about what the fundamentals of YouTube are, and I made a video about it yesterday. I made a video about YouTube basics yesterday that I really would encourage you guys to watch, because I break it down for you guys, and I give you 10 minutes of each thing. There are 3 types of real things that you can do with YouTube at a fundamental level. You need to create, grow, and monetize. And the thing is, even the videos you're making, you could be making a video, you could be creating a video for the sake of creating, and for creating and putting something out there that is expressive or whatever. You could be creating a video that has the intention of growing either your channel or growing your list or growing your Instagram. Like, there could be a YouTube video you made to grow your Instagram or to grow your TikTok. It could be for growing an audience, regardless of where. And then 3, you could make a video with the sole purpose, or the main purpose beyond giving value to the viewer, of the thing for you is that, in terms of that purpose, what you get out of it would be, this video is more monetization driven. This is a video that was a collaboration with a sponsor. This was a video that's affiliate revenue, or this was a video designed to have a high CPM rate. You have to really think that intentionally of, I created to create, I created to grow, or I created to monetize. And where people go wrong is they keep having a mistaken belief that every video can do all 3 of those things equally well. No, it cannot.
Right.
And with that said, too, like as part of my content schedule, I actually have, like, from a drop down, like when I'm loading those into Dropbox for Vigard, like I load it to Dropbox and then I basically let him know it's in the folder. But then I have like the title and everything that I put into the content schedule so that, you know, we can sync up when everything's supposed to happen. And one of the options in there is to basically categorize the video. So I literally have the videos based on what they are. Is this like a community video, something that I'm doing just because, you know, people need to, you know, make sure they're focusing on this thing? Is it a video that's monetized? Is it a sponsor video? Is it something, literally I have from the drop down, like, people need to hear this? That's one of my options. So is it like a video that I'm making just because people need to hear, you know, a concept, or if I need to rant something or whatever? But, you know, like on the intentional side of things, it's just really important to make sure that you look at your videos, you know, like they're like little soldiers, or like they're little scouts that are out there, you know, trying to you know, grab the attention of people and bring them into what it is that you're doing, and then get them to take action based on what it is that video was, you know, was made for. So yeah, absolutely. Totally on board with every single point there, fellas.
All right. So we have more questions, and someone asked, do you guys subscribe to people that use TubeBuddy? And I can say I'm subscribed to all 4 of these gentlemen right here, and they all use TubeBuddy, so yes.
And I'm subscribed to everybody here too. Yeah.
too.
So
I don't follow any of you fools.
Dan,
Just kidding.
Dan,
Subscribe to everybody.
Yeah.
Dan
I'm
Nimmin.
subscribed to everybody.
Subscribe to Andrew Can. Subscribe to Andrew Can. I'm gonna be Mr. Beast here. I'm gonna be like, subscribe to Andrew Can. It's like I'm gonna get Andrew a billboard.
For every 100 subscribers that Andrew Can gets, we're gonna plant a tree.
Oh God,
There we
There
go.
we go.
we got to
There we
plant
go.
40 trees.
You heard it here first.
So, moving forward, we do have an interesting question. This question is coming down to what categories, right? So they do a bunch of gaming, they do a lot of edits, so they're not sure if they should count themselves as a gaming channel, an edit-based channel, or a vlogging channel. A lot of people feel like they have multiple things they do on their channel, right? And they never really know what to classify themselves as. How would you best identify what they should focus on if you were to look at their channel, seeing that they do all these things?
Can I
I
jump on
wouldn't
this?
even look at their channel. I'd ask them, what do they really want to do with themselves? Do they want to be a hobby creator, or do they want to be a pro creator?
Pro creator, huh?
That's good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know,
Pro creator, huh?
Do you want to be a hobby creator, or do you want to be a
I'm
pro
in.
tier
I'll be a
creator?
pro
Do you
creator.
want to be hobby
mean,
level,
you know,
or do you want to be pro level?
As long as there's no
ask this
strings,
because-
no strings attached, I'm good.
Yeah.
the reason I ask this, and that sounds harsh, and that sounds like elitist to say, but I'm like, if you want to play a sport, right? If you want to be an athlete, you can be hobby league, and you can do a lot of different things. You can decide like, oh, I'm not going to be like top tier at anything. I'm going to just be a really good athlete and play every sport and do all this. And I'm not going to medal in anything. I'm not going to, it's like, but I learned in sports in school that when you want to be the best, when you want to be top tier, when you want to be known for something, when you want to be elite, you buckle down and you focus on something, because what you focus on is what you win at. What you focus on is what you win at. You're dividing resources, you're dividing attention, and you're dividing the attention of your audience. So how are you going to have a concentrated investment into something if you're dividing yourselves all these ways? You can have multiple interests, everything like that. God knows I do, but the reality is that it's easier to become known for something if you are aggressively focused on that thing and every aspect of that thing. Okay. And I would say that if you want to, I want to do my personality and everything like that, it's like, I would tell everybody to do what a lot of the bigger YouTubers do, is make a second channel called whatever your name is, #2 or TOO or vlogs or whatever, and post whatever random, crazy, nonsensical thing you want over there. And if people are down, cool. If they're not, no hard feelings, because you're making that channel for you. But if you want to grow an audience, part of putting them first is delivering and setting expectations and being consistent and being reliable. You cannot ask somebody to sign up for your random shenanigans. I'm sorry, it doesn't really work that way. And when you want to pull any random creator you think is successful, I'll show you the early days of their content, or I'll show you what they're really known for. And the people who are doing that now, they earn the right to do that after becoming a household name, my friend. So when people focus and they focus on becoming known for something, they're successful. I'll give you one caveat though. If you desperately want to be an entertainer and do whatever you want on YouTube, then brand yourself as a show and make your show known for something. And you still need to put structure behind that. And then people are coming for an episodic kind of thing and to be part of something. And that still might grow slower than if you just focused on something, but at least you'll have something for people to talk about in a consistent way. But that's just my 2 cents.
But that was all of it right there, Roberto, is what,
Yeah, you got it.
stop. Once you figure out the thing that you want, that you're good at making, that's something that's interesting to you, that you can make many videos about because it's an interest, it's a hobby, it's something in your life. That's great. But at that point, you have to switch gears and go, listen, I'm making content to serve an audience. So if you're making, you have to think about what that connection might be. If you're the creator right out there right now, and you're making content that wants to connect with me, I can be interested in guitars. I can be interested in Harley Davidsons. I can be interested in making music. I can be interested in editing content. I can be interested in growing YouTube channels. But if you try to make content that talks about all of those things, you'll only serve portions of people's interest. You keep fragmenting, and that's the real thing, is fragmenting your audience. Because if you're going to make stuff that tries to cover too many people, you're going to have trouble keeping them watching every time you publish a video. And every time you publish a video and you're like cupcakes and hot dogs, right? Someone likes cupcakes, someone likes hot dogs. That people who love the cupcakes, they click on that video and they watch, but you put up a hot dog video, they go, oh, that's nice. It's probably a good video, but I'm going to skip it and wait for the next cupcake video. All YouTube knows is you've got an audience out there, and it interprets that as they didn't like your video because they didn't click and watch. So YouTube doesn't have a good way of determining what your content is and why it's not connecting with your audience. So it's your job to make sure that you try to stay in one lane, dial it down. We call that niching down. Get into one place and just try to keep serving content that reaches one specific audience every time you publish, or as much of them every time you publish. We all veer out every now and then for different reasons. But
And
as
the thing is, you can make parallel audience if something is interconnected. If you're a gamer,
sure,
and you want to do gaming let's plays and reviews, you can also cover gaming hardware.
Yes.
So you don't have to be a reviewer of just the
But
games.
you're still reaching
you
the same folks, though. Like at the end of the day, you're still reaching
it has to be what Nick says all the time. This is the answer for anyone in YouTube. This is like almost the definitive final answer. How am I adding value to group X? Okay. Where am I sitting at in the cafeteria at lunch today? And what is my contribution to the group? And what is the group down for? And if I go on some random thing, understand that the group's gonna kind of just ignore me because I'm interrupting the expectation and the flow of conversation. So you need to make, if you're worried about getting stuck where you sit down, you really need to think about who you want to be a community with. Who do you want your viewers to be? In the desperate search for views and subscribers, most people don't think about, when people say quality over quantity, and I'm going to razz people forever for this, none of the people who say quality over quantity about their content never apply that same thesis to the audience that they build and say, gee, I'd rather have the quality of this community, even if it's going to be small forever, and it be people that are just down for this versus the bigger, broader audience. If you only want to make videos for hardcore gamers or hardcore anime fans, people who are into Dragon Ball, people who can tell you the life story of Akira Toriyama, don't be pissed that you're not reaching the filthy casuals, as we joke, the filthy casuals in gaming and anime culture, the people who are casual fans.
I do think that's fair, because knowing who you're trying to target goes back to that intentionality. So I do have a question, and we get this question quite a bit, and I think this is a fair
I want to interrupt right before you say that. I want to say something, because I know there's people in the chat right now who might not be trying to do this professionally.
Yes.
And I want to say that if you're just trying to have fun, do whatever you want. But if your goal is to grow, if your goal is to turn this into a business, then you need to pick a lane and stay in it. I just 100%. Want to clarify. Yeah.
So this question kind of goes on that. So this is from Divine Mystics. It says, question, and they mentioned me by name, Andrew Can. I know exactly what I'm doing. I have the channel art. I have the avatar. I have the thumbnails. I have the editing skills. Why am I not growing? So before anyone speaks in, I want to, since I was addressed directly, in your explanation, in your question, I heard I am, me, my, but I never once heard your audience. I never once heard anyone but you. If all you do within even this question, it could be true to your channel. I don't know, haven't seen it. If your sole focus is you, then you're forgetting to put the audience first based on kind of what we were talking about. So that's kind of my 2 cents. What are your guys' thoughts?
Well, if you're a new content creator and you've got like all of the, you've got your like, okay, your channel art isn't going to like make your channel like blow up. Your avatar isn't going to make your channel blow up. Your thumbnails can. Right, your thumbnails can. If you're really good at making thumbnails that make people click, then in that situation, as long as your videos can carry the weight, then that can definitely work for you. But there's a bunch of different aspects to this. Like one of the things that content creators, especially new content creators, that I think that is a commonly overlooked thing, and I overlooked it too, is the importance of making sure that like when you're getting started, that you're mindful of, yes, being a content creator is part of being a content creator is uploading videos to YouTube. But that's like if this whole, we'll use this whole frame right here. If this whole frame is the part of being a content creator, like uploading videos to YouTube, that's just like a real small part. And then like the whole rest of the part is actually like, okay, well, what are you going to do to actually get those videos in front of people? You know, what skills you're going to develop? How are you going to interact in, you know, other communities around what it is that you're doing? You know, like all that extra time that you spend, how much time are you going to spend in your analytics trying to figure out what's working, what isn't, and why? How much time are you going to spend actually going through the daunting process of like grouping content together and saying, okay, well, this content set works better than this content set, and people respond to this more than they respond to this, and you know, all of the testing and the figuring out part of things. Like that's the part for a lot of people of being a content creator that ends up being the Achilles heel, so to speak, because they're really good at making videos, they're really good at making content, they love making content, but they hate doing all of the other stuff, which makes up for, you know, a big part of being a content creator. So, you know, one thing that I recommend that you do is take that video making passion that you have and say, okay, well, you know, I love making videos and I'm doing all of those things with, you know, making everything look pretty, but now I need to start getting into how are people responding to my content? What type of theories can I come up with on why people are enjoying my content or they are not? And then how can I run experiments on those theories that I'm coming up with in order to really fine tune exactly what it is that I'm doing for the people that are watching my content? Because ultimately, I think it's Roberto that says this actually, but it's like, if you are making everything for yourself, like that's great because it can be fulfilling. You're making the stuff that you love. But when you're making everything for yourself, maybe it was Andrew, one of you guys, but when you're making everything for yourself,
I think we both said it, honestly.
if other people aren't watching it and you're the only one watching it, then you can't get upset. But if you're making content where you're like, hey, yeah, so it's like, okay, if I'm making content that I want other people to watch because I want to grow my channel and I'm asking these questions because I want to get viewers, I want to get subscribers on my channel, then you have to think about who's on the other side of the lens, who it is that's actually consuming your content, and really try to get a deep understanding of who those people are so that you can make content that they respond to more. And the better you get at that, the better everything is going to be. So
that end part is the most important part that Nick said. When you say, I'm doing this right, I've got this right, I got my titles, I got my thumbnails, I got my, everything's right. When you say, here's the hardest thing for creators to really digest and accept. We don't get to be the arbiter of whether we're doing it right if we're trying to reach other people. The viewer decides if we've got it dialed in. The viewer decides if the content is good. The viewer decides if the targeting is right. The viewer decides if the thumbnails look good. And the viewer makes all the decisions. So if you think you're doing it right and you're not connecting, you're not doing it right. That's really what it is. And it doesn't mean you're not working hard. It just means that it's not connecting. Think viewer first, audience, let them be the judge, serve their needs.
So here's the thing I'm going to correct is
like thumbnails, for example. Like a lot of people will make thumbnails and they're thinking like, I'm making good thumbnails because they look pretty. But just because you have a thumbnail that looks pretty doesn't necessarily mean it's effective for the people that YouTube is showing it to. So because of that, you have to, you know, think of those dynamics also and think, okay, well, if I'm putting this thumbnail out there, sure, it might look pretty, but is a pretty looking thumbnail going to resonate with the people that I'm trying to reach? For example, in Brian G. Johnson's Tube Ritual group, I went into his thing for his coaching program for a call with them. And there was one of his students in particular that was making thumbnails. Yeah, that's his book right there. But there's one of his students in particular that was making thumbnails. And he was basically making content about like antique radios or something like that. But his thumbnails look like something that you would see in like a Logan Paul video. And the thing is like in his brain, he's thinking like, okay, yeah, like people, you know, this is what YouTubers do. So
you gotta know your audience, man.
It's not that he was wrong in terms of, it's not that he was wrong in terms of like, you know, I'm making something that sucks, because for a different audience that might have been a perfect fit. But for the people that would be most likely be interested in his content, you know, he needs to cater that to that audience instead of trying to make it in a certain way because he sees other YouTubers doing that. So it's really important to think through the entire process of how am I packaging this up and giving it to people so that you can make sure that you're doing it in a way that they can respond to for the people you're trying to reach.
Something I will tell people, just to add one thing into this, and I'll try to be quick so we can move on, Andrew, is one of the things that both Daniel and Nick said that I want to call out is the concept of effectiveness versus the binary of thinking you're doing it right. Because thinking, oh, all right, I'm doing everything right, that's in many ways a lack of humility and a lack of self-awareness and a lack of self-reflection and self-criticism. And I want to be careful with this because I know that people also are self-deprecating, but don't compare yourself to big YouTubers and don't compare yourself to people in your niche, but really think about and ask yourself the real question in most cases, is this thing reflective of truly the best effort I'm capable of making with what I have where I am right now? And the thing is, then scale that and look at it, because I will tell you, here's the thing I will tell you that's really hard. There is nothing I do on YouTube that I'm a 10 out of 10 at. I just got to an 8 out of 10 on delivery and charisma on camera and confidence on camera. I just got to an 8 from being a 6 from the majority of my heyday, which I think I'll have another round of that soon. I was like a 6 in terms of confidence and charisma, which is really good, believe it or not, because most creators, even creators at a 100K subscriber count, are actually at a 4 or 5 in terms of their on-camera confidence and charisma. And that's not a diss on anybody. I think everyone underestimates how hard it is and how much stress turning on the camera and judging yourself really is. And so I just moved from incrementally over the last 18 months being a 6 to being an 8. Okay. And the only other thing that I'm an 8 at is engagement with my audience and my community. I'm not a 10 out of 10 at anything I do on YouTube. I'm a 6 at most of it. Okay. And so if I understand that about where I am, understand that that's not judging you and saying that you're a 3. That's saying that for what my maximum potential and best effort is with the resources allowed to me and with what my abilities is, what I've been consistently able to maintain and deliver on is a 6 out of 10 in most of the categories of what I'm capable of doing.
And Roberto, how long have you been at this?
Yeah,
how long have you been on YouTube?
7 freaking years.
Exactly.
1,400 videos.
So if you're just starting and you're thinking, okay, these guys are talking about designing thumbnails that get clicks and they've got to be, now I have to be charismatic on video. Like, this takes time. These are skills that you have to learn. Nobody hits that record button the first time and you're just at 10 out of 10. You're going to start at 0 like everybody else. And you're going to, scratch and claw your way up to a 2 and then to a 3. And it's a process. It's going to take years and years and years to get to where you want to go. So just
if I was a
dig
10
in,
out of
because this is
10
going to be a
on
while.
if I was a 10 out of 10 on my title and thumbnail combinations, because see, that's the other thing, is understanding that nothing exists in isolation. If I was a 10 out of 10 on my title and thumbnail combinations, I would be consistently, for where I'm at, pulling 8% click-through rates, between 8 and 10% click-through rates, instead of between, on average, 3 to 5% click-through rates, which would literally double to quadruple my views on every single upload. And that's what would win for me on title and thumbnail combinations. So that's part of my evaluation of it. The reason that I don't consider myself more than a 6 or a 7 on my editing is that I feel right now I'm not efficient enough, because I used to be able to edit a lot faster than I currently do, but I've been adding things into my formats that are creating creep in my creative process. And that's also affecting consistency, because there was a point where I was a 8 on consistency, and now I'm not. I'm actually down to about a 5 on consistency.
Well, don't worry, Roberto.
Another thing,
don't worry, Roberto,
how you're
and
talking
Nick
about
and
your
everyone.
titles and your thumbnails. I think that, I think a lot of people get caught there also. But I think that one other thing that is extremely important is also just the topics in general. And I'm not saying like you, Roberto, but I'm just saying like content creators in general is, they'll think of like, their title, they'll think of their thumbnail like all day long, but they won't think, okay, is the thing that I'm actually making this video about? Sure, it might be in my niche. Sure, it might be in line with, a general type of thing that maybe my audience is interested in. But like, is this topic a home run with the people that are that YouTube is showing my content to? Is it a home run for those people? Because like that's the
right.
that's the step one.
And the thing is like, you have to understand that wherever you're at, I mean, you want to strive to be better, but where you're at's good. Like wherever Roberto is, wherever I'm at, wherever Daniel is and Andrew and Nick, it's like, that's where we're at. That's good enough for the time being. All we can do is just try to improve on the next video.
Right.
Yeah.
Just try to
everybody
better.
And with that said too, you might just be one video away from a breakout that changes your life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think going back to that, baseball analogy you gave us, Nick, most people aren't even focusing on that home run. There's no crying in baseball or YouTube. So that's just kind of where we have to move going forward on this. So we have a lot of questions that have come in as we've been discussing. The first one is just a very quick one for Daniel. How do I get a free Filmora license?
Well, we can't get you a free Filmora license, but as a TubeBuddy license holder, there is a free promotion where you can get a 30-day free trial of Filmora, which also includes a 30% discount if you choose to buy. Really great deal just for being a TubeBuddy license holder. So definitely check that out in your TubeBuddy areas where it talks about all the different things that comes with being a license holder.
And speaking of intentionality, I knew Daniel would know the answer for that. That's that home run Nick was talking about.
Thanks for throwing it over the plate there for me.
Sometimes you got to do well.
That was like an underhanded softball.
Well, I think it's important to ask. So here's something, and this comes from Vigard. Maybe you know him if you've been in this chat, but Vigard is a great guy, a very, very
Vigard's
good editor.
awesome.
So he has an interesting point, and he says that sometimes I focus so much on the rules that I don't create, or I'm afraid to create. What would you say to creators like that? Now, I have this opinion, creativity is kind of like a sponge, right? You need to know when to hold the knowledge and you need to know when to release it. Because if a sponge has too much water, it's useless.
So what Roberto talked about earlier about, you have a video for you have a video for your audience, you have a video for monetization. So I would think for Vigard, if you're getting too caught up, what do they call it? The analysis paralysis thing. Just make a video that you want to make. Just make videos that you want to make and just build that habit of making the videos. Once you create that habit of making the videos, eventually eventually you'll be able to fine tune it. But first you have to build the habit of creating instead of getting stuck with all of the, what should I do? What are the rules, the numbers and all of that. Just build the habit of making videos and uploading them first. Worry about the other stuff later.
I think another
hurdles that they have to get over.
When you're making videos, I think that also the only way that you're going to be able to do any of the other stuff is by making content. So the only way that you can get caught up in the numbers is by making content. So that's the first step. So look at it instead of looking at it okay, well, I can't make videos because I'm too caught up in the numbers, so to speak, or too caught up in trying to make everything perfect for the right decision for the content to put out. Just think, okay, well, I have to put this video out so that I can, one, give myself the opportunity to move forward, but two, so that I will be able to have some type of data from that video to where when I do get around to going in and trying to figure out, what people like versus what they don't like on my channel, that I actually have some information to work with. Because if you don't publish, then nothing else can happen. But if you work publishing into what it is that you're doing and you make it something to where it's okay, well, for the next 2 years, no matter what happens, I'm going to publish a video per week. Then in that situation, you make that commitment and come hell or high water, so to speak, you publish no matter what for the next 2 years, at least one time per week, because you made that commitment to yourself. And by doing that and holding yourself accountable, then that's going to make it possible for everything else to happen. Because as soon as you throw that roadblock in of I'm not doing it because, then what you're doing is you're removing the ownership of that decision away from yourself. And you're saying that, well, I'm not doing this because of the maybe the steps that I need to take when I'm uploading the video to, make the right or to optimize it for search or whatever it happens to be. But you're leaning on that as a reason to not make a video instead of saying I'm going to publish videos and then I'm going to go on the back end and I'm going to figure everything out as I progress along, while I'm building that muscle of consistency, publishing videos on a regular basis. Because the hardest thing, and all of us, everybody on this chat right now has a lot of videos on their channel. And the hardest thing for being a content creator, the most difficult thing is that, it's publishing content over and over and over and over and over again for years and weeks and years and years and years. It's just doing it over and over and over again. It's a difficult thing to do. And that muscle, in my opinion, is the most important muscle that you have to work. Because if you can get that muscle worked out, then you can figure everything else out as you go along. But getting that muscle worked out of consistency and just committing to yourself, saying, yes, once a week for the next 2 years, I'm going to upload to my channel, and then I'm going to try to figure everything out as I go. I think that would be a better thing to lean on than getting caught up in the in the results or making sure that you're making the right decision. Because I can tell you this, at the very top of everything, it is 100%, 1000% the wrong decision to not do anything.
Agreed.
Right? Because if you're not doing anything, you're not even giving yourself a chance. But if you're at least taking action and you're putting content out, you're at least giving yourself the opportunity to learn from the experience, to get better at making videos, and to start developing all the additional skills for being a content creator.
I've never once met an athlete, a musician, or a craftsman that improved their abilities and honed their craft by doing less of it. Not once in my life have I ever met an artist, a musician, or an athlete who improved their craft by doing less of it, which is why I'm so adamantly against quality over quantity, because I don't believe in it. I literally, religiously don't believe in it. But I'll say this, when motivation fails you, when you're in your feelings about views and subscribers and all these things and all the insecurities and the trolls and the bullies and all of that, I'm going to tell you the thing that will save your creativity. You have to treat it like a sport, and you need the discipline of an athlete, because when motivation fails you, discipline will not. When motivation fails you, discipline will not. Discipline is a commitment you make to yourself and in the pursuit of more experience, more knowledge, more power, and optimal choices. And when you are disciplined and when you are committed to something, your feelings about it are immaterial. They're irrelevant, as the kids like to say, irrelevant, right? Because when you make a commitment in a sport, regardless of your feelings, you don't let your team down. You show up and you're on the line. When you start running that race, regardless of the pain, the exhaustion, the fatigue, you know that doubling back isn't an option, that you committed and you're going to that freaking line, even if you have to be carried. And that's just the way that it is. And so when you go to school, every single one of us had no motivation for the most part to go to school every day, K through 12. But we had a commitment that we were obligated and beholden to make, and we all did it. When you have a 9-to-5 job and you go to work, I guarantee you that majority of you don't want to go to work, but you do want your paycheck, so you show up anyway. If you want something, then you commit to it. It is really that straightforward. The thing is, YouTube is, for many of you, and it should be, optional, and it should be something you're doing for fun. If you eliminate, how many of you, I'll be very real with you, type a number 5 into the chat if you would still do YouTube today if tomorrow the YouTube Partner Program ended. If the YouTube Partner Program ended and you cannot monetize with ad revenue, and to make any money on YouTube, you have to hustle, then would you still do YouTube if they said no one is monetized anymore, ever, forever? Would you still do YouTube?
Come in the chat. So I want to kind of piggyback on what you were saying there, Roberto, and something that I think is important just to say, and I will get to you, D. I know you have a point too. I just want to get mine in real quick. So when it comes to doing anything, like especially YouTube, one thing I don't think we talk about a lot is it's kind of a performance as well, right? Like we are performing to an audience at the same point. We may not think of it that way, but the late, great Kobe Bryant once said that he is a performer as much as he is an athlete, and I think that we are performers as much as we are YouTubers, and that we must understand that people are coming for us for what they subscribed for, or if that is not what you're really focusing on, Vigard, if you want to just create what you want to create, that's fine too. Kind of goes back to you're editing for Nick, right? We know this. So it's in finding what makes you happy.
That was actually a really big secret. That was a huge secret. Way to go.
That was a big secret, man. Nobody knows that. No, I'm just kidding, Andrew. Yeah, everybody knows it's okay. I'm just kidding.
I mean, you said it twice
I
earlier. I
proudly say that Vigard edits my stuff. He's awesome.
I like how you said it twice earlier, then you're like, "This is a big secret." I'm like, "You blew it before me." So, like, I guess the secret's out. But the thing is like the more you perform, the more you get into it. To Roberto's point, the better you're going to be. So, D, I know you've been trying to say something. What did you want to say?
I was just going to say, I saw Vigard leave a comment in the chat, and he says that, he doesn't make videos sometimes because his ranking or the topics are ranking so poor. He's trying to find an opportunity. He can't find it, so he doesn't make the video. And I was going to tell, just make your videos, man. Like, you're a creator, you're a filmmaker. Go out and just make the videos, put them up there. Eventually, you will find those opportunities. It's like people who get so caught up into reading about nutrition, but they don't go to the gym. Right? Like anybody who's lost weight or they've gotten into shape, it starts by day one. Maybe you know a little bit about nutrition, but day one, you've got to go to the gym. You've got to get on the treadmill. You got to go lift heavy stuff and push it around the gym, right? Over time, you learn more about nutrition. You learn more about more efficient ways to work out. It's part of the process. So if you can't find those, high-ranking TubeBuddy scores, cool. Keep making your videos.
And another thing with that too is,
do what you do.
like when you're looking for those scores, like every video that you make doesn't have to be optimized for search, especially if it's stressing you out. Like,
Totally.
like you might put out a video that gives you a horrible score inside of TubeBuddy. You might make that video, but because your title is banging and because your thumbnail grabs tons of attention and because people enjoy the video, YouTube's
Or
like,
somebody
hey,
shares him. Somebody shares him somewhere.
Guess what?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so because of that, even if you get a bad score, doesn't mean that you shouldn't make the video. It just means that, maybe when it comes to search ranking, that's going to be a little bit more difficult for you to slide into those specific spots that you're looking for. But that doesn't mean that you can't end up showing up on home pages or getting suggested next to another video that's going to end up driving you a ton of traffic over the next year.
Ooh, then
So,
what if you make the
this
one
goes
video?
in on what you were just talking. I'm so sorry, Roberto. I just want to say it. So this question is, should you always make searchable videos as a YouTube beginner then? And it kind of goes into, I think you should kind of maybe have a plan per each upload. That's what I kind of tend to do. So what are your thoughts? And what were you going to say, Roberto?
80-20, focus on searchable content 80-20 in the sense that you need for growth, the growth comes from a predictable traffic source. Because I'm going to tell you, all right, so this is a TubeBuddy exclusive teaser. Andrew, you already know about this. Nick, you already know about this.
Wait, is it that VGuard edits from Nick? Oh no, we knew that. Sorry.
So this is an exclusive teaser. So I basically made a summation of all the conversations all of us have had about the algorithm. And I talked to somebody from YouTube and I just said, just correct all of my misinformation if there's any. 0 corrections on that, which means our understanding of the algorithm, as far as YouTube is concerned, we are not putting out misinformation when we make when we tell you our thesis of the YouTube algorithm. As far as YouTube is concerned, we're not putting out misinformation. And here's why I want to qualify that. One of the things that we've been corrected on is the idea of YouTube pushing your content, which is a fallacy, versus YouTube is distributing and presenting your content, and it's your responsibility for who your content attracts and pulls in. And YouTube is just identifying the predictability of those clicks in the same way that a dating app eventually learns some of your habits. An advanced dating app, not Tinder, but like an advanced dating app learns like a Match.com or an eHarmony or something. They eventually learn your patterns. Everything is pattern recognition in this world of AI. And I'm going to simplify this for people. Your YouTube homepage is YouTube taking a hard look at your user behavior, your subconscious psychological stuff. All the things you say that you want on paper are BS. And what you actually will do is in the data, my friend, because of what you clicked on in the past, what you spent an hour binge watching in the past, it is all logged. And it knows you better than you know yourself. Google knows all, okay?
He and I were having this conversation today.
We had this conversation today. The YouTube algorithm is getting really good. For example, just the other night, I'm laying in bed. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. And normally any other time of the day, I would never be interested in watching like a homeless guy camp in an airport parking lot. But YouTube knew at that moment, laying in bed, that I would click on this guy's video talking about stealth camping in an airport parking lot. I'm like, you know what? Yes. And I watched it like a 20-minute video.
Time
and then I watched
and relevancy.
Then I watched another one. It knows. It's smart. It's
Not
really
only
smart.
This is what's crazy. Not only is it predicting, this is how good the algorithm is. It's paying attention to which device you watch on. If you watch longer videos at home on a television or on your desktop than you would on the go on your mobile device, you can look at your own homepage on those different devices. It will serve you different videos because, again, it's looking at you as a viewer behavior. Can I add one more thing?
Funny one.
Started with keyword research. I just don't want to miss this one point.
Yes.
I think people think keyword research means search traffic. I want to make sure that everyone understands keyword research is not just about ranking for search. It's about understanding the language that your audience speaks and the topics that are important to them. So don't always think about, I'm just trying to get in search ranking. You're learning what your audience speaks about. I do Filmora videos. So when I do keyword research, I try to find what topics around Filmora, the video editing software, I get a lot of volume and people are talking about, because then I go, all right, I can make those videos. That's important to the Filmora community, regardless of my ranking opportunity, because one of the most powerful things is the minute my video is launched, I want those people who immediately see it, who aren't finding it in search, notifications on their homepage. That's where they're going to find me. I want them to click and watch immediately. And
Keyword research is community classification. Keyword research is community classification, Daniel, because you are exactly in the same type of tiering that I was in my early YouTube career for the first 2 years of my career. Because the first 2 years of my YouTube career, I was an Adobe software guy, and I was also the careers associated with the software I was using, which was freelancing. I was a freelancer, so I was a multi-tier Adobe user. I was using the Creative Cloud. It was Creative Suite back then. I was using the Creative Suite, which would become the Creative Cloud, because I was a freelancer. And so I was a mercenary for hire. I was a creative mercenary for hire. And so my topics were those individual careers, freelancing overall, and the tools we were using, both software and hardware. Okay, which made me part of those communities. And I was ranking authoritatively and getting repeat viewership from those communities. Now, back then, search was the aggressive part of the algorithm, which I believe is coming back. But it's community based and it's predictability based, because the goal here is you need to create a condition with people that makes predictability on YouTube. Like, you need predictable views. You need predictable views, and you need a predictable traffic source, which is why I believe that targeting suggested outside of your own inventory or outside of your own community and your own cluster of associated channels that are similar to yours is actually a bad strategy. I think trying to get suggested and targeting big YouTubers is a losing proposition unless you're a commentary channel. I think that you have to think about the community that you're a part of, and you need to think about individual videos that have predictable traffic sources that you can target and why that would work. And topically, from relevance and everything.
And one thing YouTube says in their own YouTube creators YouTube channel is that the way suggested works is it's based on that viewer behavior, going back to kind of what we were all talking. And they said that search can lead to suggested, but they don't mention how it can work in reverse. So just as important as it is, and to go back to what Daniel was saying, is once you identify kind of what your community is about or what you really want to discuss, right? In his case, it's Filmora. For D, it's mastering your mobile. For YouTube and tips and tricks like that, it is Nimmin. For affiliate marketing and a broad spectrum of amazing things, you can go to Roberto. And I think it's understanding how we found those communities. Our value prop, as Daniel said, really gives you an idea of how we identify what we want to make, how we answer those searchable questions our audience have. And I think when doing that, we find the success that we, one, aim for, and or it'll come later. I think one thing we don't talk about a lot is I'm okay with a video maybe not performing great out of the gate if I know that I can do well later on, because maybe I know that later on it can do well. And that just takes doing it over and over again. Now, Daniel, I know you said that you had to leave at some point. I just want to bring your attention.
I'm okay for the moment.
All right,
I know you want to get rid of me, but I'm here.
No, I don't want to get rid of you, but I don't want to hold you.
We're all
I know
sending Andrew messages. We're like, hey, man, can we get Daniel out of here?
I even hit my hair so I wouldn't feel like
too many good ideas. We got to get him out of here. Yeah.
I'm not. That is not the point. Look, Daniel's my dad, if you aren't aware. So
ask any Uber driver
or anyone who
now we've got 2 cats out of the bag during this stream. Yeah, we're just rolling them out.
You know how many people would come up to me at events and be like, "I met your dad," and I'm like, "Really?"
Brian G. Johnson in the house. Andrew, after the say real quick, Brian G. Johnson, what's up, man?
Got Brian in the house. And about Andrew, after the stream, I need you to clean your room, pal.
All right, I'll make sure I don't do that. But thanks. My next question we have is
all kinds of weird, man. All kinds of weird.
It wouldn't be a TubeBuddy stream without it, Dan.
Yeah,
true. True, Dan.
Yeah.
We do have more questions though, and I do think this question is really good. For a long time, I was focused so much on the device I was recording. It was an old camcorder. What do you guys recommend when it comes to cameras?
Whatever
work
you
with
have.
What you have.
Yep.
Yeah. Work with what you have. Like if you've got a phone, start with that. And the thing is like, sure, you can give yourself that like visual advantage when you first start on YouTube if you have all this stuff, right? But all the presentation stuff, the editing, how you're packaging it, the pacing of your video, all of that stuff, you're going to have to learn that anyway. So while you're going through that learning process, if it's happening on a phone, if it's happening on a red camera, like Vigard just mentioned in the chat, you know, like whatever it is that you're recording it on, you're still going to have to go through all of that. So if you're just getting started, I would just work with what you have. Of course, you know, everybody wants to have their videos look a certain way, but you know, these days, like phones are getting so good that, you know, you can spend the amount of money on a phone that you'll always have with you so that you can make videos at any time that you want for half the price or for
I
what
feel
some
like
of
I
the
should
lenses
be.
will
I feel like
cost
I
you.
should be saying this.
Okay, yeah, go, Dean.
No,
yeah,
what I want to
go
point
ahead.
out though, is that I don't know what everybody else is filming on in here, but as far as what Nick's talking about, Nick's streaming right now on like a $90 webcam,
That's what I was going to
and
talk about.
it looks good. It looks
I got
good.
it
You know,
switched
his
over,
lighting.
actually. I got it switched over.
Okay, well,
But
you
when
know
the
what?
stream started, I was on a
Daniel-
$90 webcam. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you were
He
able
was
to figure
streaming on a
yours
$90
out.
webcam.
I'm changing it back now just for the sake of of
Yeah.
that. So this, just for reference, this right here is a Canon M50. So the camera itself, I think, is like $600. The lens that I got for it, I think, is maybe, because it's a wide angle, I think the lens was like 100 and something bucks. But so this is like we'll say like a $700 setup. This, as long as it takes, boom.
And we lost Nick.
This right here
looks
is
great.
a $90 setup.
Yeah.
And for most people, especially if you're watching on your phone, if I like got the framing right and all that stuff, like if you're watching on your phone, you probably can't tell much of a difference.
Keep in mind,
Right?
the stream, like lag and weird matrixing, is not a part of his image.
Yeah, that's
I just want to piggyback on that.
Because the
point,
funny
though,
thing is, Nick, the second you started talking about how good your quality was, it went matrix. So
Yeah, I want to say that what Nick is saying is spot on, but like whatever you have, if it's your phone or if it's your camcorder, whatever you have, start with that. If you spend some time learning how to light your set, you can do a lot more than you think you can do. You can make stuff look really good with just a little bit of well-placed lighting.
true. And to
So
that
start
point,
with whatever you have.
when I was trying to get on the stream, I ended up having to get my own webcam too. Like, I have my nice camera all set up, but it wasn't going to work with what we were doing here today, and I had to rely on this webcam, which, again, use what you have available to you. Like, so answering your question, like, I'm using an old camcorder. Is that good enough? Get better at the lighting, look at how you can improve it, and it might just be perfect enough for what you need to do right now. Because the beauty is you can upgrade later on, but if you're just trying to get into it, don't sink a lot of investment if you're not sure you even like it.
Yeah, and if you
So
don't
I'm
have
gonna
the
do a-
skills to create great videos, then the cameras won't make a difference. I say this every time. To this day, the highest performing video on my channel that drives 700 or 800 views every day for the last couple of years was filmed on a 6-year-old, D will tell me the correct year they came out, Samsung Galaxy S6. It's not about the gear, it's what you do with it.
I don't know the year, but yeah. I
So
should
I'll
have
do
said
a-
so. You know what?
so-
2006.
There you go.
April
So I'll do
2000.
it. I'm gonna do a yes and, because yes to all of that, and you need to consider whether or not the gear is getting in your way, because there's things where too much gear gets in your way, but there's things where not enough gear gets in your way too. Because if you're not happy with what's happening on the camcorder, that could be demotivating you from making your content, and it might be easier psychologically to upgrade for that purpose. But there may be an actual physical limitation that is frustrating you for the type of content you want to make, because there are different types of gear that are suited to different types of filming scenarios, as most of us here would know, meaning that if you are a documentary filmmaker, a flip out screen doesn't mean a lot to you. But if you're a YouTube content creator, a flip out screen might. But then there's also other considerations. A primary example would be I shoot on primarily Sony gear. And I think a lot of people here know, because I've talked about it, that I shoot on the Sony gear because I like how the color science and the low light sensor works better for my skin tonal ranges, and also with my backlighting setup. So Sony is preferable to me. Canon could work, but I really just like Sony's options better. And if you're someone who likes editing and color grading, then shooting in log profiles might mean that you like either shooting with Sony or shooting with Panasonic. If you like autofocus, it's Sony and Canon hands down. Nikon's new system I need to check on, because I think that's actually going to kill it, the Z system. Atola Visuals, Kitty, she's been crushing it with that. if you are doing a type of video, like let's say you're doing stuff where you film inside of a moving vehicle, like you're the side passenger in a car, or you figured out some kind of rig for your car, you might need a camera that is capable of a couple of things. You might need a flip out screen, but you might also need low light for that. So you might need the sensor size. So you may need a full frame for that. On the other hand, maybe a GoPro is preferable because of the wide angle option, but it's not adjustable. So that could also be frustrating. I think you have to look at what is your shooting scenario and what camera do you need? Do you need the interchangeable lens capability? Do you need wide angles? Or in my case, shooting speaking engagements, I actually have to stop using my $3,500 camera that's mostly photography and go to my crop sensor A6600. And do you know why I have to do that, Andrew, and why I need 2 of those cameras? For speaking engagements?
Well, one for multi-angle, of course,
Because
and then
it shuts off.
shuts off and or overheats, because I know that's been a problem.
So the A6600s don't have overheating, and they have unlimited record limit, and they have a deeper battery grip than my A6500, and they use the same battery as my A7R3. But my A7R3, which is several times more expensive when I bought it new, it's about $2,000 or $2,500 now, is that and my A7S2, they don't have the length of shooting I need for a speaking engagement, because as you know, those could go an hour, they could go 90 minutes. So I need the 2 A6600s because they have the longer battery life and the lack of the record limit. So that means for that type of long format shooting uninterrupted, because I want all the audio, I want no resets, I want no interruptions, I have to use those cameras. It's also better if you're using a gimbal to use a lighter camera.
True.
So you just have to think about what is my shooting scenario and buy gear that's less frustrating to use, lets you make content as fast as possible. Because do you know why most people actually get frustrated with making their content, Andrew? It's because it's a chore. And if it's a chore and it's too hard to do, or the process is taking a long time for little return when you're a smaller content creator, that's what demotivates people. I'm not saying to buy your way out of that problem with gear, but what I'm trying to say with this is anything that improves the efficiency of your process, anything that improves speed of execution, not speed of results, speed of execution, your ability to deploy and reliably and consistently is what will win, which is why even Casey, he could afford any cameras he wanted. He went with the Canon 70D setup that he has because it's just consistently reliable across the board. It's good enough for most things, and he needs something that's grab and go for most things. You see what I'm saying?
There's a saying where they say, buy your time back. Anything that can
Yes.
buy your time back. If there's something that's really taking a lot of time because you're wrestling with a piece of gear, wrestling with a software, wrestling with your computer system, that's the place you should spend the money the first. The thing that's a hurdle for you, invest in it. If your picture doesn't look great, get some better lighting. Spend $100 on lighting. If your computer system is lagging out every time you edit, think about investing in maybe a system, upgrading your RAM, or making sure that maybe you can upgrade the processor, maybe you can put in a graphics card. Buy the things first that will ease your workflow and worry less about how fancy the gear is.
Exactly. And speaking of things that'll ease the workflow, I just wanted to thank you all for joining us today on the TubeBuddy live stream. So TubeBuddy is an amazing browser extension and mobile app to appease
The
those
best
who are wondering. Thank
browser extension. The best tool for YouTube content creators to help you manage your channel, come up with awesome video ideas, test your thumbnails, all of the stuff that you have to do with your YouTube channel. TubeBuddy will help you do that in an awesome way.
Thank you, Nick. So we have
Create
another
more, work less.
Exactly. We have another question here, and it's a really quick one. So everyone, why don't we go around, because someone asked, what mics are you using? I'm using a Rode NT1. So Roberto, what are you using?
I'm using the Blue Yeti Blackout Edition.
Daniel?
$100, best mic for $100.
This is actually an older mic. It's a Audio-Technica AT 2020 XLR that's driving through a PreSonus mic pre.
Nick and D?
This is a Rode. What is this, Nick? What do we have in here?
Procaster.
Procaster. Rode
Procaster.
Procaster. Yeah.
Yep.
And
much
Yeah, Rode
gear.
Procaster there. This is
Rode
a
Procaster.
Shure SM7B, but I also have the one that Daniel has. I have that one. I have that one as well. It's an awesome microphone. I love how that
And
thing
these are, and
sounds.
they're not this. Just so you know, like this mic you can buy for under $100. They're not.
Yeah.
It's not expensive gear.
exactly.
Yeah, that
And
was the
That's why
first live streaming mic that I got. Like when I was like, hey, I'm gonna upgrade my audio and all that stuff for my live streams back when I went from like phone to like an actual live stream. Because I was using the shotgun mic that I was normally using, and you know how it is, with those. And for live streaming, I was like, hey, I need to upgrade. So I went with the AT2020 also. Great mic.
And again, one thing I want to say is I like how you mentioned that, Nick, is that as we got better and better, that's when we decided maybe we can up our game. It wasn't just we needed the best gear to start. It's after we were creating for a while that we were like, hey, I can do this better. And to go back to Daniel's point,
Well,
if it buys us that time back, it really can mean a lot. And you were going to say, D?
I was going to say another thing is when you're just getting started, you don't know yet what you need.
Oh,
You don't know the
Yeah.
differences between microphones. You don't know what a dynamic microphone is versus a shotgun microphone. You don't know what the different lenses do. So you need to kind of start small and figure out what you actually need.
yes. And I see a bunch of
You know,
people
talking about
go
saving
ahead.
time, D and I actually take that to an extreme. Like we're so, because like I'll just say it, D, I'll put us out there. Like we're kind of lazy, right? So because of that, like when it comes to making content,
That
like
was another secret wasn't supposed to get out.
yeah, another secret. We're letting them all out of the bag here. But basically, like when it
I'm
comes
not
to
wearing
making
any pants.
content, then it's like, okay, well, in order to shoot some B-roll for this, or in order to do something fun with this, I need to disconnect my camera from the tripod, move it across the room, unhook my monitor, unhook my HDMI from it, all that stuff, and then move everything over. Like instead of going through that process, which might make me say, you know what, I just won't shoot B-roll for this one. Just get another camera, and then you don't have to worry about it. You have the one that stays where it's at. So I've got like the Sony that stays here for this one. I've got the Canon that stays there for that one. And then I have another one that I use just for like shooting the B-roll stuff that I've been doing recently in my videos. And the same exact thing applies with this, because I wanted to upgrade the camera, but I didn't want to have to keep moving my Sony over every single time that I, hopped on, for something like this. So same exact thing came here. But all of that though, it only happened because
to make you more
it
efficient.
only happened because of the efficiency and the it takes away any possible mental block that I might have had for taking that extra step to try to make stuff cooler.
Right. So if I have a setup and I have, my Zoom and it's plugged into a mic and the cable's over there, like I'm just like, you know what? I don't want to move that. I don't want to tear that down and rebuild it. I'll just go buy a second set and I'll just rebuild a second set. And then, and I'll have that. Yeah, because that's where it's not lazy. It's just that, like Nick said, that becomes a mental hurdle. Like, oh, I just don't want to do that. And for me, the moments where I have those where I just don't want to do it, that's, if you're not disciplined, that's where you start to fail, right? That's where that discipline comes in. So I'm like, okay, well, I know that's a pain point for me. So it's just better for me to go get a second microphone and another Zoom and just build a second set, so I don't have any excuses.
That makes sense.
And I'm lazy. Let's just I'm lazy. Let's just say it.
Well, I think that's true to a point to every creator at some point. I think we all can get lazy in things, and I think that's why it's important to go back to those fundamentals, as I mentioned earlier. I think it's important that we remind ourselves every time that, hey, we do enjoy doing this, even though sometimes we can get too in our head. Now, I want to answer a couple of questions. Someone asked, why isn't TubeBuddy supported in my language? If you'd like us to support your language, you can go over to our community forums, community.tms, and suggest that to be a feature. We can't promise any quick results, but we can definitely take a look at it. The next thing I want to bring up, and this is a question I think is very interesting. You guys all create a lot of content and have been doing it for a while. When was the last time you were challenged creatively in a piece of content you did, and what was the content? So if anyone wants to take that, feel free.
Because I generally make tutorials on my channel and I just bring awareness to things that people can do with their phone, I haven't really been challenged creatively, but I have had technical challenges, like, trying to connect a webcam to a phone and getting that to work and get the microphone hooked up. So I have more technical challenges than I do creative challenges. But I'm okay with that. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to be a filmmaker or, Francis Ford Coppola or something. I'm just trying to, help people solve problems.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way with mine. Like I don't do that much creative stuff with my content. The most creative thing that I've actually done in quite some time, when I was editing, I was more creative with my stuff, because I would see something in the video and I'd be like, oh, hey, I can do like a little bit here. But recently, the only creative thing that I've done is just introduce my little character guy that I'm experimenting with right now. So like that's the only thing that I've done like on the creative side with my stuff recently. And the challenge was that I blew the audio. So that other camera that I was talking about, I matched the settings in the camera that I always use. And with that particular one, I thought that I had everything matched and I was blaming it on the microphone, but the problem was actually inside of the camera. So I ended up putting out a couple videos with bad audio. Not total videos, but little bad audio clips. But that was a challenge for me, just figuring that little problem out.
Yeah,
But you put it up anyway.
My situation is a little different because of anyone who's seen my channel. Most of my tutorials start by using some sort of an interesting hook where I use the thing I'm teaching in a setting. So I tend to challenge myself almost every video to come up with an application of the thing I'm teaching in a way that shows someone, hey, that's an interesting take on that or an interesting technique. And I'm always looking for a new way to take a simple idea and put it in a perspective that maybe someone didn't think of. You know, I'll let another cat out of the bag. Like Dee and I have been working on figuring out how to do a collab together where, because he's a mobile-based channel teaching people how to use their mobile and I'm talking about how to edit, we have an idea for showing people that you can make really great videos on your phone. And we're building out a whole script. We're actually doing a movie thing. It's going to be really cool hook that's all filmed. The two of us, him in Thailand, me over here, and it's all filmed on phones. So yeah, creatively,
Tom Cruise in on this. Cat's out of the bag. Tom Cruise is in on this. Yeah.
Oh yeah, challenging yourself is just a matter of anytime you think outside the box and the way you present something can be challenging. Just thinking about how you can creatively connect with a viewer instead of just following the trend of how everyone else might do something.
Yeah, and just good titles, thumbnails, that kind of stuff too. Just like how can I do this in a way that's gonna hit home? Yeah.
I'm challenging myself to make 200 videos again this year because I only made 86 last year, which for me is abysmal because the year before I had done 146, the year before that I had done 200. And this is coming down from back when I would do 300 plus videos a year because I used to be daily. I used to do daily content and I used to be quality and quantity. And the thing is, I upped my quality game. I did everything. I upped the ante on every single thing that I do. But then the thing is, the only reason the consistency suffered because I also upped everything I was doing in my life and in my business, and I was traveling more. I went to over 20 events, and so the time got away from me. And then with all that travel, I also stressed out my body because I was working so hard that I wasn't like overworking or overextending myself so much as I neglected a lot of self-care, and I would work through minor bouts of being sick and then make them worse because I was just too overzealous about what I wanted to do. And then I wasn't able to do more. And so it defeated the entire purpose. Now that I have a better self-care regimen, now that I have a better workout regimen, now that I've hired people into my business, not for my YouTube channel, but for my actual business, I get to focus more on being what I want to be, which is I want to be the CEO in my company, and I want to be the best creator that I can be. And I can balance that better because now I have help and resources and a better schedule. And so my goal is to make 200 videos and to make the quality that I have accustomed my audience to and not just overdo it. I'm not going to up the quality anymore because you guys already said yes to this. Why am I going to go nuts on that, right? And I'm going to suffocate that narrative that you can't make quality and quantity. I'm going to suffocate that narrative. I'm going to hold it in the bathtub. I'm just going to, and it's going to go away because I'm going to prove it.
And I think that's an important discussion for all of us. The last time I was creatively challenged would probably be, I get a little bit too reliant, and I think this is in my own personal channels. Like on TubeBuddy, we script things so that we make sure the data is presented and is presented well. But one thing, there can be a danger is if you get comfortable with something, you can almost become robotic. And I think that is something like recently I recorded a lot of TubeBuddy videos in batch, but it's like 69 gigs of footage because I kept redoing it until it didn't sound robotic. So it's like understanding that in your search or in your conquest of being like fast or being anything, make sure that you still keep who you are present in your videos. And I think that's important. And that's where I've been challenged more lately. However, folks, it's always better to leave you wanting more. That's going to be it for us on this live stream. Thank you all so much for watching us, guys. It has been a fantastic pleasure to have you all. Where can people find you?
I just
Find
want to
me
say
on
really
YouTube.
quick.
All right.
Go ahead.
D
D.
Nimmin. Find me everywhere under my name, D Nimmin. Should be the name somewhere on here. Better be.
Yeah, I think he's got you linked down in the description.
I do.
All right, there you go. And in the description, I got a link to my channel down in the description.
There you go.
If you're a mobile
And you-
content creator, you want to be a mobile YouTuber, head on over to my channel. I'm going to show you how to do that.
Yeah, and I was just going to say thanks for everybody for hanging out. We hope that you enjoyed the stream today. We hope that you got some type of value out of the information that we were sharing today. We love doing this stuff because of the takeaways that we hope that you'll pull from it. So, you know, we hope that you got some value out of what it is that we're doing today. Links to everybody are down in the description below.
Thank you, everyone. Have a fantastic rest of your day.